Hello my dear friends, I am AKREX and I am glad to be back. The reason why I was away for quite a while is because I'm facing some financial crisis issues, and I had to do a lot of work in order to sort that out, and I'm still on it. The reason why I jumped on this one is because I wanted to give you guys a little bone to chew on, just to keep you a little bit busy, and in the meantime I'm gonna be bringing more content. Now, to find out what the plan for the channel is, please stay after the main part of the video is finished. Now, the reason why I jumped on this one here is because this is this video that says there's like 5 creatures that could totally basically destroy Tyrannosaurus or kill Tyrannosaurus Rex or whatever. Now, I am in a very big disagreement with that list presented in the video, so I will just start from the same order from the top as the video itself was listing them. Now, I do not have any issues with the narrator himself. I only have issues with the points that were presented in the video, and as you can tell, it's a 5 minute long video. It's very short, and you can obviously expect that it's one of those clickbaity stuff that's just used to generate views, and it doesn't even present anything truly factual whatsoever. Now, let's jump on it. Now, the first creature that the video lists as being able to kill a Tyrannosaurus is well, he calls it a Giganotosaurus, but that's Giganotosaurus, please. Or Giganotosaurus if you wish, but not Giganotosaurus. Please just get it right, because it makes me cringe. Now, with that out of the way, there's a few things that I said, like for example, he said that it's believed that it fed on Argentinosaurs. Like, that's the spelling on the screen, Argentinosaurs. That's how I heard it anyway. But I believe he may have meant Titanosaurs, as in like a Titanosaurida sauropods. I don't think... well, it kind of shows that obviously whoever was composing and the video didn't really know what they were talking about when they were using it, but maybe... But if they meant actual Argentinosaurus, as in the actual genus Argentinosaurus, then, well, they are proven to be living in different periods. Mapiosaurus rosei lived with Argentinosaurus in the same formation and period, which was later than Giganotosaurus. Now, of course, that is until there is coexistence that might be established later on, but we haven't got that yet, so therefore we cannot make that claim. So that's one other part just to mention here. Now, one other thing that they say that's coming closer to this point is Giganotosaurus was noticeably larger than a T-Rex. Now, my question is, how so? What was so noticeably larger about Giganotosaurus than a T-Rex, considering that T-Rex was actually wider, was built heavier, and had a lot more mass concentrated in specific areas of its body, with Giganotosaurus being longer, maybe, slender, narrower, and, well, in general body plan, it was more typical for Allosauroids in general. So, as such, they were not as heavily built as Tyrannosaurids, especially later period Tyrannosaurids such as Tarbosaurus, Zhucheng Tyrannus, and Tyrannosaurus. Now, the important thing to understand here is that Giganotosaurus has only been found... Well, the holotype itself is the only most preserved specimen. Anything else, if you were to start looking at the fragments, you might as well then take all the fragments known from T-Rexes, from other examples, and beef them up the same way, and you would pretty much find result will be all the same. If you were to start stretching it out like so, then you would find that T-Rex would still be superior in size as well. So you do not have to go out of your way to do that, so that's why stick to the known evidence, and the known evidence so far does not suggest a Giganotosaurus being actually larger than a T-Rex. Now, the other thing that is mentioned in here is that some studies indicate that T-Rex could also attack in groups. Now, it is generally accepted that, yes, predators would benefit from doing so, and I have an interview about this lately uploaded with Dr. Philip Curie, where we discuss these kind of ideas and how they are generated and how they came to be. However, when you make a claim that there are studies that indicate certain things, why don't you include the citation to the studies? Which studies? Can you be more specific? If a T-Rex was to encounter a group of Giganotosaurus, if it's a lone T-Rex, now let's say it's an adult T-Rex, for example, relatively experienced, and it encounters a group of Giganotosaurus, and what it would happen, probably, I would imagine, personally, that's my opinion now, is that the group's alpha from Giganotosaurus would be the one facing off with the Rex. The rest of the group of Giganotosaurus will probably just be there for the sake of showing the, the psychological sort of, intimidation to show that they are overwhelmed with numbers. However, if that T-Rex bites the face off that alpha Giganotosaurus, the rest of them are gonna scram. That's not normally how these things happen. They don't normally jump on and start just going in immediately and trying to beat each other up. The psychological interaction and this whole measuring up process is what pretty much dictates the potential outcome. It's not just the plain old brawl, if you get my meaning. So it's important to understand how their social structures work before you can even make these kind of comparisons. Then you have to obviously make an understanding of, when you're comparing certain creatures, what age group are you taking? Are they both in their prime? Are they both perfectly healthy and fit? You know what I mean? Like, if there is a sexual dimorphism present, in which case in T-Rex we do not know if the females and males were different in their, sizes and body plans and strength and etc., or level of aggression and just general behavioral issues. There simply isn't evidence to suggest anything like that. And all those previously claimed theories, they were nothing more than just suggestions. They were never truly proven, and they were all tested. They have all been pretty much dismissed at this point, and there was never any, publication that truly can examine and test these theories to show us that yes, there were some significant differences. So, but if there were in other creatures, like say if you were comparing it to other creatures, then yes, you could take, like, for example, maybe like if you were to take a modern day creature like a bull elephant, for example, it would be more likely to have a better chance at fighting a T-Rex than, say, a cow, I presume would be the name for the female elephant, if in a one-to-one combat. I mean, that does not mean that the female elephant would not be able to win against the T-Rex, because it doesn't mean it has to kill it, it just has to repel it to stop it from attacking and remove the threat. However, a bull elephant, it has a better chance because they usually have bigger tusks, they are more aggressive, and they are probably more up for a fight. So, and they're also bigger, so that just gives it more advantage, which is perfectly, well, sensible in my opinion. In any case, that's what this first part is. It's just to give you some idea of how, how these things could work, and why it's important to really know a lot more than is being presented in order to make this kind of assessment and start spreading it around like wildfire. In any case, let's get to the second point. The second creature that the video has chosen is a Triceratops. And while I generally agree that a Triceratops is perfectly well equipped to deal with, the threat from a direct frontal assault, they were still very vulnerable prey items to Tyrannosaurus. And the video also fails to address the important factor that as armor develops, whether it's, technology in our, humans' history, like, from medieval times and etc., or whether it's the animal kingdom, which we see quite evidently that this does develop throughout a certain, lengthy period of time, in dinosaurs in particular. Now, they also fail to address the fact that both weapons and armor evolve together, side by side. They never go one over the other, because then one of them would completely eliminate the other, and that's not really what happened. We don't see that happen. What we do see is that, as a coincidence, that Tyrannosaurids are definitely better equipped to deal with armor than, say, Allosaurids, and that's where we so far are seeing a decline in Allosauroid, population as we go to later period of Cretaceous, and towards the extinction we pretty much mostly only see Tyrannosaurids in, as being the major apex predators. There is obviously a chance that an Allosaurus might still remain living, and we might yet encounter some, but I do not think, so far, from current evidence, that there is enough reason to believe that they could live that long to be able to coexist and survive in the same niche, especially if you talk about things like Tyrannosaurus. Now, the thing to understand here as well, that predators are always smarter than their potential prey. And this is just one of the main things that needs to be given credit to the Tyrannosaurus here, is that as a predator, it is perfectly capable to deploy all sorts of tactics when it comes to outsmarting their potential prey item. And if they weren't able to do that, then they would not be successful at doing what they do, and they would just simply fail in their roles as predators. So there is that to consider. So yes, Triceratops can potentially kill a Tyrannosaurus in a one-to-one struggle if they were to go like head-to-head, but you've got to understand that chances are, if a Tyrannosaurus realizes that it's not going to be able to get its lucky bite in there, to be able to control and manipulate its prey, the chances are it will just probably back off and try again later, when the prey is not going to be so on guard. Because charging into like basically a spear phalanx, which is what the Triceratops essentially represents, you just have to be a crazy suicidal to do that, and predatory animals were not like that. They always know and have the viability to judge whether or not it's safe to charge in or to attack a certain prey item, and that's how they basically survive and hunt, or else they would just basically die, getting stabbed to death. In any case, let's move on to the next point. Now, the video mentions neovenatorid theropod known as Siats. Now, the problem I have with Siats, it's only known from fragmental parts, and the estimates that have been provided, which to my knowledge is basically making it basically somewhat maybe heavier than say an Allosaurus, I believe at 4 tons or something, because Allosaurus was much lighter than that, but it's still lighter than say an Acrocanthosaurus or a Giganotosaurus or a Mapiosaurus rosé. So even then you have to understand that even the largest of the Allosauroids in a one-to-one combat, let's say they're both in their prime, they're both perfectly healthy and capable, and both are experienced. Now, you still have to understand that Tyrannosaurids were evolved to be superior, because they are equipped to deal with pretty much anything, while Allosauroids are highly specialized. Now, with each other, of course, because we do not have evidence of Tyrannosaurids, quote-unquote, wearing any armor, so it would be perfectly possible for something as big as a Giganotosaurus, for example, or any other similarly sized Allosauroid, inflict a very bad, nasty bite onto a T-Rex. However, it would take time before this bite can actually do any real damage. And before that happens, I would guarantee that a T-Rex would be more than capable of inflicting a very lethal bite, and something which is more immediately lethal on its opponent. Like, for example, if it bites the face off or the neck of an Allosauroid, it would just basically either snap it or it would just damage it beyond repair. And it's just a miracle if either of them would be able to survive. So while it is possible for a Tyrannosaurus in this encounter to die of bleeding, although we know that there's many times already known how they were capable of healing their wounds and they still survived bad injuries, etc. However, let's say, for example, it does bleed to death eventually and Allosauroid managed to, kill it, but this Allosauroid would in turn also die, and maybe die much quicker, from having its bones broken by the much more powerful and stronger jaws of T-Rex. So there's not gonna be a winner. The most case that I can think of in an equal scenario like this is that there will simply be no winner, in this kind of encounter. That's the most likely scenario in terms of if you were to say that where the T-Rex basically dies. In any other scenario, I would pretty much be inclined that 90%, if not more, of the time, maybe even 95% of the time, on equal grounds, in equal size and experience and prime, etc., health, shape, whatever, you would basically be seeing a Tyrannosaurus always emerging as a victor, even if there was a fight to the death. In any other case, it's probably going to be down to the psychological intimidation, but if they are on equal ground, there is a very strong chance they might actually engage in combat, because one is not clearly older or larger or more experienced than the other, and not clearly more, healthier than the other, so there is no kind of facts here that kind of give them obvious advantages, you know what I'm saying? So in that case, if they are, of equal age, of equal length, so whatever, weight, even closely, of equal size, I would mean that they would probably be about the same mass, then you would still see a Tyrannosaurus going on the top. But that is obviously my opinion, but in the case of Siats, I do not see that happening. Even if we were to reconstruct the skeleton to its full, it would just be too small to deal with this kind of contender, and it would have better chance of surviving if it just runs away rather than trying to be ballsy and try to fight a T-Rex. And even then, it's actually very interesting that but it's very interesting to know that maybe Siats deserves another video on its own once more stuff gets known about it, because this may be one of those interesting things that could indicate that Allosauroids may have actually still coexisted with Tyrannosaurids, they just weren't quite in the bright spotlight. But that would be very interesting to learn more, however, not in this video, and only once we get more fossil record. Next point. Now, the next one that he brought up was Sarcosuchus. Okay, I see crocodilians frequently being brought up here, and I can sort of understand why. But first of all, let me also elaborate that they are not the largest of the crocodilians. They are among the largest, which means they share this title with Deinosuchus and Purosaurus. Deinosuchus being from the late Cretaceous in North America, although it disappeared off the fossil record before actually a Tyrannosaurus rex started appearing. So so far there's no evidence of them coexisting in the same places and in the same period. Now with the Purosaurus, that's an even much later animal which appeared once after the dinosaurs went extinct, and but it was a huge kind of oversized basically caiman which had absolutely brutal jaws, and it's a very impressive and absolutely gorgeous and cool looking animal. Now in any case, if we talk about Sarcosuchus in this case as well, yeah, it was not the largest basically, because you have to define, obviously, what the largest actually means. Was it largest in length? Was it largest in mass? Anything else? How was it determined that it was the largest? By the author of the video, or whoever is basically, written the text for the narrator to read it. That's my point here. Because you have to give more clear definitions to certain terms before you start applying them. Now, the video also tries to imply that armor was the main means of protection and thus could defeat a T-Rex. That it also fails, now this is the second time it fails to acknowledge that Tyrannosaurids were designed and equipped to deal with armor by their natural process of selection and evolution. They were designed to do that, and in facing off on land, for example, a Tyrannosaurid of an equal size with a crocodilian will most likely come out on top, simply by being more sophisticated and superior in its design. If they took the struggle into a deeper water, then sure thing, that would make the crocodilian at a much greater advantage, and chances are the T-Rex would completely fail. However, I find this particular type of struggle rather pointless, because if you were to make them fight, you're never going to be able to find this perfect balance of their respective environments and elements where they shine at their best without leaving one or the other at a disadvantage. So it's not going to be a fair contest regardless of which way you go. So it's simply pointless to say that. So in an environment where Sarcosuchus basically, is in the water and has more mobility to deploy its tactics, yes, it might have better chance of taking a Tyrannosaurus down so that it can start biting at it and doing the death roll and causing it to bleed, and then start trying to drag it underwater, drowning it, and all of that stuff, crazy things happening, limbs being broken apart, all that kind of jazz. That's possible. I'm not saying it's always gonna be successful, because Tyrannosaurus is a very big and strong animal, and it could potentially resist it and try to even pull the crocodilian out of the water before it can start rolling in its death roll. And if that's the case, then, well, Sarcosuchus ended up biting something that can eat that thing alive. So that would have been a lethal mistake, but we don't know. Now, if it was the other way around, yes, a Tyrannosaurus would annihilate a Sarcosuchus, because it simply was at a much better advantage on land than a crocodilian, which is perfectly sensible. But there's no way to put them in a specific environment where they could both basically be equal. That is my main point here. Now, on to the last one. Now, he also mentioned an Alamosaurus. So, yes, of course, Alamosaurus was a huge titanosaur sauropod, and yes, it is possible for it to kill a T-Rex. That's probably the only one I can think that could definitely decimate T-Rex if it were to if T-Rex was not very careful in approaching this kind of sauropod, and basically just being stupid enough to get caught in whatever weapons of destruction this huge sauropod could potentially unleash on it, because they were so massive that anything could pretty much cripple you. And theropods, naturally having a more delicate build than sauropods, well, they would be the ones at a big disadvantage here, and I can perfectly agree with this. Now let's go into the final few notes and thoughts, and also I will be looking through some things about what kind of channel plans we have for the nearest future. Now, to conclude here, when you make this type of videos, people tend to always skip and glide over a lot of important points, and they do not apply equal measure or scrutiny to both counterparts of the equation, which is completely wrong. You have to always create equal conditions for whatever sort of things you're trying to compare. If you compare one to another, what's the point of comparison if you're not applying equal basic conditions for them, to be compared? Because otherwise, how are you going to compare them? And you know what I'm saying, right? So it does make perfect sense. You cannot compare certain things if they are completely, from different elements, and if you cannot put them in the same element and make them both work in that same element in order to be able to compare how well they would perform. Now, there were a lot of points here in this video's rhetoric that obviously require more precise definition, and they're just simply too vague. For example, when you define sizes like larger, you have to always define how much larger. What does it actually mean? You have to be more precise. Does it mean heavier? Does it mean longer? How does that really change anything? This is one of the things you have to always, understand and address properly. Now, other than that, yes, I am still of an opinion that this is obviously a very typical clickbait type of video. It does not really aim to inform people properly. It just wants more views and just to have more school kids out there going around spreading heresy. Now that we're done with the video, if you guys want to know the plans for the channel, please stick around. And now one of the things that are gonna be happening relatively soon is I'm gonna be renovating the channel. I will be introducing different newer versions of these characters that you see. You see the AK Rex with with the guns and wearing like a baseball cap sort of thing, Majigi. You've got the Trike with an AK-47, you've got a Velociraptor with a bazooka. Now, those ones might still appear from time to time, but they will be mainly replaced by an AK-Rex, which will be wearing a full plate armor, and it will have a Morgenstern type of mace. And if you look at the Trike will be wearing like also medieval type of armor known as the Brigandine, and will be holding a poleaxe. With the Velociraptor, we will have the Velociraptor wearing like a padded sort of tunic or a gambeson, and it will be an archer. So there will be quite a few things changed in that regard, and also I will be introducing a slightly different structure to sort of the content that I will be producing. You will be seeing me on camera a lot more often this time around. once I get all these things sorted, and once I hopefully set up a good place at my home for making a green screen. Now, the content types you will be expecting to see here will definitely include dinosaur-related topics. Of course, I will be debunking stuff, I will be reviewing stuff, doing the creature reviews on request, depending on what requests they are as well. And so all of that stuff still stays. Then I will introduce the gameplays of a variety of games, which will cover mainly dinosaurs, fantasy, and maybe historical sort of related stuff. And historical related and fantasy related content will also be a new theme on the channel. Now, another new theme on the channel will also include, although it's not really new, it's already been appearing here and there, but it will become a more regular theme, is the collecting and painting minifigures, and specifically the hobby related to Warhammer 30k or 40k and Horus Heresy. The other slightly, maybe not as frequently maybe promoted type of topic, but it would still be happening, is basically something that's not related to any of these particular topics, but it will basically show you some of my favorite spots around London, or maybe some other places where I travel, where I like to chill and maybe have a drink, maybe have a coffee, have, you know, a snack or whatever. And this means that in any of those places, my favorite places that I will be filming on screen and showing here in the videos, this means that there is a chance for you guys who are from England or from London especially, that you might be able to even meet me there if you want to meet me in person, or you might just by luck bump into me there as well. And so expect those videos. For example, there will be like a place, for like a coffee shop, where I will maybe film a video and I will share my thoughts, tell you what sort of things are nice there, what's my favorite sort of, you know, item on the menu and stuff, and where it is located. And that means that if you happen to be in the neighborhood and if you stop by, you could always look into the window and walk in and see if I might be there by any chance. And if I am, you can come up and have a chat. That's not a problem. So that's basically what is being planned. Now, in the nearest future, I can say expect an upload of an interview which me and Joshua will say have done with Dr. Tim King, who has been digging up mammoth in Siberia and many other places where mammoths lived. But this one in particular will mostly focus on Siberian mammoths. And if you guys want to get a glimpse of a preview about what will be discussed in the upcoming interview, please follow the link in the description. I will give you the link both to the original video that I was debunking here, and also the video of this National Geographic special about the mammoths, which you could take a look at to get an idea of who Dr. Tim King is and what they did in that program. And that way you will have a better understanding of what we will be discussing. And what else can we say? I mean, anything else will be resuming as usual, hopefully. But please make note that, once again, that I will be traveling away this month on 26th, and I will be coming back on 9th of June. And then on the 19th of June, I will be away up until 11th of July. And this means that in that period, I'm very unlikely to be able to upload any new content of this sort of manner. What I may do, perhaps, is if there is going to be something really cool happening, I might share it on the channel, if it is in any way going to be related to, all of the listed channel themes, like, for example, favorite places to chill, or maybe like there would be an exhibition of sort of, like maybe fossils or something like that, then yes, we could potentially upload that on the channel as well. But unless it's anything like that, then likely I will not be producing any content within those time periods. Now, bear in mind that I'm also extremely busy, and I'm one person, and right now I have a lot of things that I need to sort out when it comes to work and money. So a lot of times I simply will not have an opportunity to produce a good, content to deliver. But I will do my best, and you just have to be patient. So if you see me not being active for a long time, just so you know, I am alive, I am well, I'm just very, very busy and absorbed by all of these issues. In any case, thanks for watching. Please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and share it with the friends that you know who might be interested in the subjects that I have listed. And until then, I've been meekerorum, and you guys take care.